Oh, hi. Welcome to Say It, I Dare You, the podcast where we pull apart the personal meanings of taboo and hard to say words and phrases with lovely guests and some gentle peer pressure. Today, we are talking about trans joy. We could have just as easily made this episode about the word trans or transgender, meaning a person who identifies as a gender that is different from the one that they were assigned at birth. It's not that we won't be discussing the word trans because it is absolutely an important discussion, but we decided to title this episode Trans Joy because it felt important to focus on something more than just our guest's identity, but instead also the beauty and excitement and joy and bright life that she lives with it. I'm Quinn, and today I'm joined by Jordan Adrienne, transgender fashion model and content creator from Toronto, who shares her life online, including the joys and the hardships, in very inspiring ways. Hi, Jordan. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Quinn. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Jordan's journey and story has made its way to Narcity and Flare.com, and her content includes working with brands like NYX, Destination Toronto, Majuri, MasterCard Canada, and more. All of this to say, she's built a business out of using her voice to share the joys of being a trans woman, the story of her journey here, and her mission to uplift the LGBTQ+ community through content and vulnerability. As you can expect at this point on this podcast, Jordan, my first question for you is, why do you relate to today's episode topic?
Well, I definitely relate because it's so true to everything that I've gone through in this journey. I definitely feel trans joy from the moment that I came out to every day that I remember why I came out, and I feel it every day. So I definitely relate to this topic.
I love that. When did you start becoming an influencer, and what made you want to start sharing that journey and that joy with the world?
Well, the influencer journey has taken so many different forms over the years. I started as a content creator. I was doing an internship when I was still in school. I went to school for public relations and Instagram, and there wasn't no TikTok. Instagram had just quickly taken off.
Yep.
And I loved it. I loved taking photos. I loved editing videos. And although Reels hadn't even started, so it was really just a photo sharing platform.
Back
And
in the day.
I loved it. I loved perfecting that picture and everything. And that was really fun. Then I started a blog because blogging was really great, and I loved to write. And I was always encouraged by my family and friends to keep writing. So I wrote about fashion and beauty, and started going to Fashion Week Toronto back when Toronto had a Fashion Week. And now we need to bring that back.
Are we dating ourselves? No TikTok, no Reels.
Right. 2016. But who remembers 2016? Because that was a great year for makeup, for so many things, for music. It was such a great year. So then TikTok came about, and of course, all the content creators started migrating over there, and then there was this expectation that we all sort of had to join, and so I did, and now it's all about fun videos, and I get to share more of my story and my journey in different ways, and different trending videos and things that you can incorporate. So it's been about 8 years, slow growth, slow burn, but like definitely have loved every minute of it.
Yeah, and that's a really long time to be sharing like your personal life, but I also feel like with the introduction of video content becoming so popular, the personal aspect of it is more nuanced now. Like, you could share just a post on Instagram, and it was just a post on Instagram. Like, you didn't have to talk. Nobody knew your voice.
Right.
Nobody wanted to know what your house looked like. Like, it was a lot more curated.
A lot more curated, a lot more simple. It's still curated for me, I'm not gonna lie. You know, I'm definitely working on always showing up a little bit more authentic.
I clean my house before I record a story. I'm not lying.
Oh, you have to,
Yeah.
I think. Unless the story is that you're going from how messy this was tap to reveal that it's clean. But if not, yeah, of course, you gotta do a quick sweep, do a quick clean. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying where things are now in this land of social media.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's hard to balance authenticity with also wanting to represent yourself a certain way?
I think it could be. I think it could be, but you gotta find what works for you, right? So I'm definitely trying to be realistic. You know, like, I'm into affordable fashion, I'm into affordable beauty and skincare routine. I mean, sometimes I get stuff sent to me. That's a nice perk of the job. But honestly, you got to find your niche and kind of go with that. And then I also don't always talk about my personal things. I often don't. I like to keep it fun. My passions are fashion, beauty, skincare, food, even, you know, what I'm where I'm going. But then I like to sit down or make it a meaningful discussion, then I will. And that's sort of when I talk about my personal journey.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess this kind of transitions into my next question, where I wanted to know kind of if you ever feel like you have to keep that perfect image online, but especially as it relates to your identity and wanting it to be seen and respected. Do you feel like it has to be perfect, or do you get a little bit more raw in that aspect?
I'm working on the raw. I definitely don't have the raw part down, as well as other content creators that I really look up to and admire. They can just tear it open and be as raw as they can be.
Well,
and I struggle with that because I'm vain and I want to be perfect. Like, that's me to my core, you know. Like, you saw me touching my makeup up when I got here, like, and fixing my hair.
I don't think that's vain.
And nonstop touching my hair. You know, I definitely have a few things that I know I need to work on because I'm neurotic.
Well, but I also think you're putting the blame on you, as if Instagram haters are not wild and out lately. And I feel like there is an element to providing vulnerable content in which you also just have to have a thick skin to get hate, is the most direct word for it. And I don't think you have to have thick skin in order to live on the internet. I think you can have a balance between being raw and protecting yourself.
I work on having thick skin because I am someone who's really sensitive.
That's a welcome trait of this podcast, just so you know. Sensitive is never a bad thing here.
I'm definitely very sensitive, but I always think I'm like, oh, I've built that thick skin, and then something happens and you're like, okay, maybe I didn't work on it that much. But I think, you know, once the haterade starts coming, I like to pretend that like I really have made it, because as of right now, I have a community of other creators and some people who just enjoy the fashion beauty, but they don't really necessarily, I don't have the haterade coming. And I'd like to imagine that when it does come, I will take it to a different level.
Right. You're like, that's when I've actually made it.
That's when I probably really have made it. Except one commenter the other day said something not so nice, said my voice was low or something. And I'm like, yeah, it is. So
why are you
what?
here?
You know, and my pronouns are she and her, and don't, you know, thank you, but for hating on me. But
yeah, I'm a big proponent of if it's not for you, go away. Like,
go away. I felt like I kind of
social.
made it, but I also was like, I don't know. It's not like at the level of other content creators
right.
that I know.
I know.
I'm like, call me something horrible.
Yeah, we are not welcoming hate to Jordan's page, just to be very clear.
We're not.
I'm happy that you have a community kind of built around you as well, because I think that's a big part of living life online, is just needing to have those people who are there solely to uplift you, no matter what you're doing. I'm glad that that's there for
I
you.
do have that.
Good. Was there ever a point in your coming out journey where you feel like you didn't resonate with the word joy?
A point in my coming out journey, there's definitely been a few, like, not to sugarcoat it, you know. I always think about when I'm like dating, you know, I don't mean to sound so negative, because you always have to remain positive, but dating as a trans girl, you definitely know the boat that you're in. It's not the worst boat, it's not the best boat. I'm very positive, I've had lots of experiences, but there's this sort of like gray cloud, let's say. And you know that it's kind of going to be there. That the trans joy dissipates, I think, when we go into dating, because you know this boat that you're in, you know you're different, and it's not the same as other people in the LGBTQ spectrum. I find other people in the spectrum find each other a little bit easier once they're out and about. And it's us, we're kind of in this middle section, so the joy is harder.
Yeah, because I don't actually know this, but do you identify as a straight woman?
Well, I identify as a straight woman, a girl who likes men.
Yes.
Obviously, you're still straight in the LGBTQ because you're a T, and I get that as well.
Yeah.
You know.
But I was gonna say, like, I think that there.
I kind of like straight men. I know I like straight men, straight mask men.
Yeah.
And they like me.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but finding love is probably harder to come by, for sure, and that's where the joy dissipates a bit.
That's tough. I think it's not something that I call out often is the like lack of intersectionality in the LGBTQ plus community. We love to hate on each other in ways that are deplorable, especially because it should be this community. It should be this space where we all kind of resonate with each other for the same reasons. But I think, I know, if you can hear those sirens, I live in downtown Toronto and I left my window open and I'm sorry.
Oh God.
I know. We live on a major throughway. It's
hard being a content creator with the outside world.
Yeah. With the rain and the sirens.
5 o'clock darkness.
Yeah.
But
gosh,
no.
It saddens me, but it's also unsurprising because I have many trans folks in my lives, and the dating scene has always been this like black pit of the hardest element, at least from my perspective of the stories that I've heard, of finding joy. Because oftentimes joy in media and social media specifically is centered around partnership and love and having someone and support systems. So I can imagine it's tough to feel like your identity has something to do with why that can be difficult.
I think that's it, because I mean, I have a great self-esteem. I'm very confident.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about my looks and it's not about my personality. It's about the fact that I'm trans and what comes with that and blah, blah, blah. But
it's tough.
It's tough. I mean, and also then you throw in the dating world just as it is in 2024.
Yeah.
For most people, it's tough. The culture, the way men and women interact online, offline, like it's just a little tough for everyone. Then you add in being trans, right?
Right. So in that journey, when for you do you feel like you resonated with joy?
It's like every time I get to dress myself the way I want, which is every day, you know, there's moments of joy and there's moments of sort of sadness or slight hopelessness. I mean, that's where I am in my journey today, you know, but I mean, I'm not hopeless. I'm just, you know, but it's the joy comes, you know, or when you find that really nice guy that you know, start, and it makes it all seem like you're not, what's the word? Like you're not
othered because of that thing.
Exactly.
Also, it sounded like you were about to say ashamed, which we talk about shame a lot on this podcast too, and it lives within all of us. But
I didn't want to be a trope, you know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, which is just a whole other conversation about a lot of folks in the queer.
When you just meet a man who just gets you, and you know, you're like, that just gets you and doesn't need to make it a thing, or you're a first time experience, or it's just like, I've actually had other experience with trans women. I've dated, or you're like, oh, this is refreshing. Okay.
Yeah, they're there for you, not for any other part of you. They're not there because you're an influencer. They're not there because you're trans. They're not there because you live in Toronto. Like there's you and your soul and your personality behind it. And that's so important in dating. You also, I will say, for those who are not watching, when I told my wife that you were coming over to film this podcast, she crept your Instagram, obviously. And then she goes, oh my God, you need to warn me when you invite people that pretty over to our house.
Oh my.
So for anybody not watching, she says she's vain, but she has every single right to be. And when you say these things about getting to get dressed every morning the way that you want to, and that's what makes you feel joy, I'm happy to hear that it's like those little things, because they're not little to you, but they're little to the rest of us, and I feel like we all need to pay more attention to those little things that make us feel joy, you know?
I mean, you definitely have to implement some sense of gratitude into the everyday situations, and look how far you've come. Maybe you're not where you want to be, but it's like, okay, today I get to put on this blouse, bought myself this purse, or I got it gifted or something amazing, and that's okay. I'm doing something right, and the rest hopefully will fall into place. So
yeah, I love that. So when it comes to trans joy, what is something you want the world to know?
Well, I want the world to know, you know, especially the right wing people, especially, you know, people like Megyn Kelly in the States, for example. I want them to know, you know, that we're not so much freaks of the week, and we don't have, you know, it might have started off as a mental illness being trans, and like maybe it is like your body's doing one thing and your brain's doing another thing, and but it's not just me, it's not just Jordan Adrienne, it's multiple hundreds and thousands of people all over the world that also something's not right in their brain and they need to transition. So really, we're just normal people, and we go on to do amazing things, and we have this joy because we know we have a community that says we're allowed to do something that we were told we were not allowed to do growing up, right?
Yeah. I mean, I do this thing sometimes that I really regret, where I surround myself with unproblematic people, and then sometimes I see something on the news or I witness hate, and I'm like, people like that don't exist. But I'm so bubbled with like people who are kind and good.
Me too. And for 10 years since I've came out, like I found the media to be much more open-minded. The media was kind of opening up at the same time. You know, there was Orange is the New Black with Laverne Cox. Now there's an actress on Netflix, and then there's 5 actors. You know, it just blossomed. And then suddenly I'm seeing pushback from this Megyn Kelly, as I've spoken, and other people like her. And you're like, really? Even if you think that, you're actually putting that out there? Like, that's horrible.
You're saying that out loud?
Interesting choice. And it sounds like you're smart. It sounds like you're educated. It sounds like you know better, and you're choosing to go down a certain narrative.
Yes.
That's not very good.
Yeah. And it's not like those like MAGA folks are here listening to this very queer anti-capitalist podcast, but I can't fathom that somebody could hear someone in your shoes say, I feel joy because I get to dress like myself every day, and not be like, why would I dislike that? Not actually question that bias, because you're listening to people say, I feel better, I feel happier, I feel myself, and you're like, fuck you. Like, then make it make sense.
I know. And sometimes like I surround myself with great people. And then I turn on Megyn Kelly. Like, I do watch her. It's like, why do you watch something that like, it's like, why would a hater watch your stories, right? But for me, I like to be educated. I want to know what they're saying. I want to know what the argument is. And it doesn't ever really make sense to me, but
no. It's helpful to know what people are saying, not only to have conversations. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality that a lot of LGBTQ plus people are the catalysts for conversations about anti-trans policies, anti-trans politics. These conversations are happening in a lot of rooms, and often because of people in our community starting them and forcing them. But if you don't understand the points that the other side is going to make, you can't necessarily be prepared for those conversations. So I completely agree with you. I think it's important to ingest that media, because it can also be really, really jarring and like bad for your mental health to be smacked in the face with homophobia and be like,
right,
whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
Warm yourself up.
Yeah, unfortunately, be prepared.
Right, warm yourself up.
Yeah. Is there a common misconception you think exists when it comes to your identity or what it looks like to be joyful as a trans person?
Well, I think there's stereotypes that trans people get. And some of the bigger stupid ones are like, you know, we're creeping into the bathroom to you know, like to do what? I don't know. But we're going into the wrong bathroom for the wrong reasons or something. Like, that's a misconception. Also, when I was in school for media communications, we had to write a thesis. So I wrote about how trans people are misrepresented in the media from time going back. And that shaped a lot of my childhood. Like, that's why I didn't come out till I was 19, because we didn't have those positive representations and everyone was saying no. So, you know, but we've come a long way in some capacities.
Are there, for anyone listening who feels like maybe they've been caught up in these misconceptions or care about understanding your identity, but maybe don't have someone in their life to talk to, do you have suggestions for kind of how they should go about finding that information, finding accurate media representation and things like that?
Well, for me, like, it was really just through YouTube. I mean, I know we're going back a long time. but you do want to find like prominent individuals that you look up to. I mean, if you're trans, like I love Gigi Gorgeous, and but now there's so many other girls that you can look up to, and I mean, I think it's there for you, you know, to sort of.
You have to seek it out.
You have to seek it out.
Yeah. I think
but now it's better than when I was coming up.
Yeah.
You know, so. Despite some of the haterade we're seeing from, again, Megyn Kelly and other people like her, but there's still other opportunities for trans people to work in the media so that we can have those moments of representation.
And I think anyone who maybe feels like they don't have representation in their lives, it's the same as curating your Instagram feeds to have the recipes that you like and the, you know, travel videos for where you're going on your next trip. You can curate it to have trans voices, Black voices, Indigenous voices. Like, that's up to you.
Yeah, there's so many trans creators that I follow. Shout out to Just Jamie P in Toronto. Absolutely love her, and her content's very, very trans focused. And she uses that in her. And so I love just how she shares her journey, even if it's not all positive. You know, she shares the good, the bad, and the not so good. And that's great. I don't necessarily have that same content that she has, but I get so much from watching her. You know?
Yeah. And I think ingesting that type of content, no matter who you are, can help you feel, whether you have a basic understanding of a trans identity or not, there's a human behind that camera. There's a human being with a heart and a soul and a life that matters. And I think content can help people see that in ways that maybe media representation, movie representation kind of skims over in some ways. Of course.
And in this essay that I wrote back in school, it was like we were always the villain, always this sexualized or villain type of person, man in a dress, the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
So now it's nice to just have like an actual storyline to share, or a creator that you follow who shares everything, you know?
Yeah, who has it all,
or bits in between, and that's me probably.
Yeah. And that's still valid, still important. Why do you think that trans joy, or like trans people succeeding and being themselves and happy, is a hard topic for some people to talk about, whether that's trans folks who are struggling to discuss their joys or non-trans folks who struggle to have that conversation?
I think just being trans, there's always a layer. You know, we always have gender dysphoria, even if we've been trans for 10 years, you know, it creeps in different ways. Maybe my voice is throwing me off, you know, or whatever the insecurity is. There's always a bit of a layer, or now we have the dysphoria physically, but we also are struggling with dating. And is that just because the dating world sucks, or is that because we're trans and going through it? So it's hard sometimes, or those are, you know, some of my experiences, but I know other people who are trans, in a bigger problem is their family doesn't support them. And that's like the worst.
It's hard to find joy amongst hate.
Right. So it's hard in that capacity. I am very lucky. My family was very supportive. I've had great supportive family and friends.
Good.
So I'm blessed in that department. You know, you got to have gratitude where you can. Yeah.
But also fuck the haters.
Well, fuck the haters. Yeah.
Yeah. There's gratitude for the good ones, and the not good ones, go seek out some trans representation.
Ignorance is not cute.
No. And it's not bliss.
It's not bliss. It's not cute. It's not a good look.
No. When it comes to sharing your journey and your coming out story online, what has been the hardest part for you?
I don't know that there was a hardest part for sharing my journey. I don't know. I guess eventually like a light bulb kind of went off, and I think, you know, it all kind of was happening at the same time. I wrote that essay about media representation and transgender representation in the media. And at the same time, I was becoming a content creator and posting bits. And then, you know, let's say it might have been Flair, another publication that I was just so excited that they wanted to tell my story, another Canadian trans stories. And I was like, okay, it's an opportunity. Like, you don't have to be shy. Yeah. The world's changing. No one's going to chastise you, you know?
Yeah. So you almost half answered it there, but what's been the most rewarding part of sharing your journey online?
Just, number one, being open, choosing, I know we live in Canada, choosing to never have to hide, like I like to be open. I like to share my story. That brings me joy. It's like, I am a woman, yes, but I'm a trans woman, and that's just my journey, and that's what I'm going through. And, so I like to share that, and that's been rewarding. And finding like-minded people, that's amazing. And being that representation as well, that brings me joy. So yeah, those are the things that I get from being open.
I love that. And your content is incredible. I find it truthfully the perfect balance of open and also just content. You're not necessarily digging into every single hardship of yours, but it still feels genuine.
I really feel like the girl next door.
Yeah.
The trans girl next door. But sometimes I'm like, I just want to share my skincare routine.
Yeah.
And okay, today I want to share this fabulous outfit, but it's not always about my journey, but it's in there. If you know me, I'm not hiding it.
Yeah. I love that. So, oh gosh. Okay. I have so many more questions. I feel like we could talk for hours, but I wanted to say thank you for sharing this part of your journey with us and for being the voice for this episode. Because I feel like it's really exciting and important that this episode comes along with the ability to go and follow Jordan online, which you should do anyways, but also to have the representation along with it, to be the person that helps diversify feeds and also have these conversations.
I'd like to say life is hard. Being trans is harder. And, it's not, I'd like to share more about how hard it is sometimes because it's hard, but I want to be there for people to have a good time, to maybe get something else out of it, take your mind off of it. But don't forget to focus on the small things that bring you joy and that, you could be grateful for, because that will get you through and out of the hardships and into the next day, right?
Yeah, it's hard, but look how fucking joyful it is. Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could definitely be.
What a wonderful takeaway. Jordan, where can people find you online? What's your handle? Everybody go follow.
You can follow me at Jordan Adrienne on Instagram and TikTok.
Wonderful. I'll make sure it's all linked so that y'all can follow her. You can also follow us on socials, TikTok and Instagram at Say It I Dare You Pod. Please leave a review and download these episodes. The downloads really help us. Follow us on all of our socials. And thank you again, Jordan.
Thank you.
Of course. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.